What happened? When this hiring cycle started, I didn't think a top head coach candidate like Ben Johnson would even consider the Las Vegas Raiders. They don't have a quarterback while the Chicago Bears do, so Johnson did what he was supposed to, right? But then all the NFL insiders made the Raiders the frontrunners because of Tom Brady, and I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe he was such a winner that he'd convince guys to come to the dark side. It didn't work for Johnson, though. He chose the Bears. So what happened to the Raiders? How did we go from the Raiders being the favorites for his services to Johnson quickly deciding to go to the Bears? This is speculation as I have no inside information, but I believe there were a couple of things at play here. There are a couple of things that come to mind here that I believe it could have been. Let's set the scene first. Johnson was the hottest head coach candidate of this hiring cycle because of the work he did with the Detroit Lions as an offensive coordinator. His offense was number 2 in the NFL in total offense of 410 yards per game and number 1 in the NFL in scoring offense at 33 points per game. Johnson has had the Lions offense in the top 5 in yards and scoring every year since he became their offensive coordinator in 2022. He's a big part of why the Lions are winning too. They were 3-13 in 2021, then they went 9-8 when he was promoted to offensive coordinator. Then of course they went 12-5 and ended up losing in the NFC Championship game in 2023 and just lost in the divisional round this year. From that you can see why he was the most coveted head coach candidate this offseason. He knew that himself, which is why he tried to parlay that into bringing in his own GM. That condition usually goes to experienced head coaches, but since Johnson was so coveted, he wanted to see how far he can go with it. He wasn't just looking for any head coaching job he can get. He did go back to Detroit after almost going to Washington last year. Did we just get played by the media? This is speculation here, but the NFL is the number 1 sport in America by far because they use the media to keep their fans obsessed with it all year. So when the season's over, it's all about the off season. That's when coaches get fired and new ones get hired and fan bases are paying attention. The Raiders have one of the biggest, most passionate fan bases, so did the NFL play on that for more attention? When the regular season ended, Johnson only agreed to interviews with the New England Patriots, the Chicago Bears, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Those were the teams Johnson was interested in, so when Brady showed interest, I originally thought Johnson took the interview out of respect. But then all of a sudden it turned into the Raiders being the favorites for his services. The whole thing went from the Bears being the favorites to the Raiders, then back to the Bears, and a done deal. It didn't take long for him to decide when the season ended either. That right there was the most perplexing part of the whole thing. Do you think the media created those things to create interest? If they did, Raider fans have been victimized. The Patriots were out of it once former Patriot player Mike Vrabel came back to coach the team. From there it became a 3-team race, and of those teams, the Raiders appeared to be the only team willing to do what they had to do as they fired GM Tom Telesco. Meanwhile, the Jags kept Trent Baalke and the Bears kept Ryan Poles. That's what made me believe the Raiders were really the favorites to land Johnson. What happened? Johnson wanted Washington Commanders assistant GM Lance Newmark to be his GM. Newmark was with Johnson and the Detroit Lions for a couple of years before the Commanders brought him in 2024. But it turned out Brady didn't fire Telesco for Johnson. This is speculation here, but I believe he did it so he can bring in John Spytek, his guy. I believe they went to Michigan together. He's the Raiders' leading GM candidate. So did Brady try to sell Johnson on Spytek and it just didn't work? Then when Johnson saw he couldn't bring his own GM to either place, did he just choose Caleb Williams, the quarterback he wanted? That very well could have been the case. There's also the possibility that Johnson was using the Raiders to get the best deal for himself. Davis is known to pay top dollar to head coaches. I know when guys sign to go to a certain place, they always say, "This is the place I always wanted to be." What else are they supposed to say? He could really mean it when it comes to the Bears though. I don't know. What do you think happened in this whole ordeal? What I do know is Brady made the right call not letting Johnson pick the GM. The Raiders might have dodged a bullet there. A rookie coach and a rookie GM at the same time while Brady's a rookie executive? That would have been a lot of rookies. Thank you for watching. See you next time.